All right, Shabbosai, good morning. Good morning. Let us begin. Begin by thanking all of our sponsors. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Elul. Jerry and Sarah Wolanski for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month in the Schus for Refuah Shlema for Zechariah Dov Ben Perel Shira. To thank the Tilson and Wall families of various Israel for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month in honor of the weddings of our children, and with best wishes for a Ksiva v'chasima tova and a Shana tova u'masuka to the entire Shira. Thank you to Shendin Avram Kelman for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month in memory of their beloved parents and in the schus of all of those who need a refuah shalema. To thank Salma Wolf for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month with immense gratitude to Hashem and with tefillos for health for all in the new year. To thank Leah Sol for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month, and there's a schus for refuah shlema for her daughter Ilana Bas Esther, and for all those in need of Yeshuas and refuahs. In our week of learning sponsors, Hillary Jacobson Kent, in commission of the yahrzeit of Milton Jacobson, Mordechai Ben Asher Ben Dina, Zichron Levrach. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the Neshamos Lav and Aliyah and all of those who need a refuah should have one together with Kol Cholei Yisrael. Also with that, let us begin. Today's daf is Lamed Aleph 31. But we are picking up in Meretz Hashem on Lamed Amud Beis on 30b, and we are picking up actually in the intermediate wide lines, 2, 4, 5 lines in. Tan Rabbanon. We'll say some incredibly beautiful Gemara today. Tan Rabbanon. Kasha Yetzirah. The Yetzirah is incredibly difficult. And we'll say what that means is the Yetzirah is a formidable foe, a formidable odd enemy. Shafi the Yotzar Korah, even the one who created it, i.e. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even the Ribono Shel Olam refers to the Yetzirah as Ra Shene'emar, Ki Yetzer Leif Ha'adam Ra Minu Arav, as the pasuk says, because again the inclination of man is Ra, is evil from his youth. From his youth. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Yitzro Shel Adam Mischadesh Alav B'chol Yom. Ultimately, the Yetzer of a person renews itself against him every single day. Shene'emar Rak Ra Kol Hayom. So I will say, so this is actually an interesting idea, that what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying over here is a person's struggles renew themselves every day. See, in other areas of life, it could be that a person has a struggle, they overcome the struggle is done. The struggle or the battle against the Yitzhahara is one which renews itself every single day. It doesn't go away. Shene'emar Rak Ra Kol Hayom. Reb Shimon Levi says, Yitzor Shel Adam Miskaber Alav B'chol Yom U'Mevakesh HaMis. Reb Shimon Levi says, not only does the Yetzer go ahead and renew itself every day, but it becomes stronger. So we'll say it's two different dynamics of the Yitzhahara. The first thing Rabbi Yitzchak is saying is just understand the battle of against the Yitzhahara is never done. Is never done. It literally renews itself day after day after day. Don't think you've ever overcome it. Don't think you've ever vanquished it. Rabbi Shimon Levi is saying not only do you not conquer the Yitzhahara, but it's even more. It's even more. He says at the end of the day, the Yitzhahara itself actually becomes stronger with each passing day. Both say they're describing over here what for many of us are the most difficult and frustrating aspects of combating the Yitzhahara. Everything else in life, if you conquer it, it's done. If you overcome it, it's done. Once you know how to deal with it, develop a skill set, you're good. The Yitzhahara is the one thing which never goes away. It's constantly there, and not only that, sometimes the more proficient you become, the stronger it becomes. Were it not for the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us with our Yitzhahara, ein yachol lo, we would be unable to go ahead and contend with it. In other words, the only ability to do battle with Yitzhahara comes because of incredible siyata dishmaya. I need the Ribono Shel Olam's assistance. So the Gemara says, Shene'emar Elokim lo ya'azvenu biyado. So we'll say just incredible. So number one, a recognition, the Yitzhahara never goes away. Number two, a recognition that sometimes the Yitzhahara itself actually becomes stronger day after day. And number three, a recognition that at the end of the day, I cannot go ahead and do anything with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with Yitzhahara, without the Ribono Shel Olam's assistance. Overwhelming Yisodos. Tanad Rabbi Shmuel. B'ni, if you encounter the Yitzhahara, we'll say listen to how the Gemara describes the Yitzhahara. If you bump into that minovel, you bump into that Yitzhahara, bring him to the base medrash. pull him into the base medrash. If he's a stone, he'll dissolve. In barzel misposes, and if he's metal, he will go ahead and explode. Shneimar halo kol devarika ishnu Hashem ukipatish yifutzas sela. Im even huni muach shneimar hay kol samei luchulamayim va'omer avanim shachaku mayim. So I will say a really incredible idea. So the Gemara explaining over here that what is the antidote to the Yetzer Hara? What is the antidote? So I will say, so now that the Gemara framed this for me a little bit, right? And sorry, 1 second. Now that the Gemara framed this for me a little bit, and the Gemara explains that the Yetzer Hara itself is something which renews itself every single day. The Yetzer Hara is something that doesn't go and say, how do you contend with it? And the Gemara says, pull it into the base medrash. Pull it into the base medrash. Torah. Torah arms us with the power to combat the Yetzer Hara. So you'll ask, what is it about Torah? What is it like? Is it that I'm learning something? I've acquired a piece of knowledge? No, it's the act of learning Torah itself which transforms you into a different kind of person, a stronger person, a more capable person, a spiritually confident person. And that's what gives me the ability ultimately to contend with the Yetzer Hara. It's so incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. La siu isha. So remember again, Rosie, just such a beautiful, beautiful idea. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara now explains the next thing in the Mishnah. Ultimately, again, there's an obligation to go ahead and for a father to marry off his son. So the Gemara says, "Minal and dichsev kichu nashim v'olidu banim ubanos ukru lebnechem nashim v'espenosechem tenu nashim tenu la nashim." So the pasuk says, "Take wives, have children, have sons and daughters. Take for your sons wives, and your daughters marry off to men." Okay. So the Gemara says, "Bishlama ben Abi Yado." I understand, as a father, I have the ability to marry off my son. So from the Gemara's perspective, so marriage was a man-driven initiative, right? The husband would be the one who would go out and seek the wife, and he would be the one kind of like who pursued this particular initiative. So therefore, as a father, I have the ability to help my son, so to speak, get married. The Gemara says, "Elabita biyadahu," but does a father have the ability to marry off his daughter? Whereas, again, that's going to be dependent on a man seeking her out. So what could I, as a father, do to better the chances or to help enable my daughter to get married? To which the Gemara says, "Hachi kamar lahu nita lamidi v'lavshe unechase kihechi dekavtu ale enish." No, what you can do is provide her with beautiful clothing, provide her with a good dowry, and in other words, make the shidduch look, it's not very romantic, but make the shidduch look attractive. Make sure that ultimately, the shidduch is attractive, and that again, she's a put together girl, she has what it is that she needs, and there's a dowry that's there. That way, again, it will increase the number of suitors who are pursuing her. Incredible. Lalamdo omnos. So a father is obligated to teach his son a trade. So we know, and I'll say, where do we know this from? Amr Chizkiah Damikra, Re'ei Chaim im Isha Asher Ahavta. So it's actually very beautiful. The pasuk says, see life with the woman who you love. Now I will say, so what is the pasuk referring to? Now I will say, understand, Re'ei Chaim, the Gemara is darshaning over here to mean, make a life for yourself. Meaning, get a job. Get a job. Chaim in this context means parnasa. So go ahead and make parnasa. So im isha mamish, if the pasuk is literally referring to an actual wife, kishem shechayv lasiu isha kachayv lalam de'umnos. So therefore, the pasuk is teaching us the same way that a father is obligated to go ahead and help his son get married, seek out a wife for his son. So the pasuk equates getting a job with getting married. So the father should help his son acquire a parnasa as well. In Torah, and I will say, but some say re'echayim im isha asher havta, the isha asher havta, the woman who you love. That's not a wife, that's Torah. In Torah, kishem shechayv lamda Torah, kachayv lamdonos. And if it's Torah, the same way that a father is obligated to teach his son Torah, a father is also obligated to go ahead and teach his son a parnasa, a trade. V'esh omrim aflo shito benar. Others say also, again, I'll say first of the widest lines, that a father is obligated to help his son swim. So my timer, what's the reason? Chiyusi, so that's the Mishnah, it could save his life. It could save his life. He could be on a boat trip, the boat could capsize, and again, without the ability to swim, he will not be able to go ahead and save his own life. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kol she'en malamdo omnos, malamdo listus. Rabbi Yehuda said, anyone who doesn't teach his son a trade is as if he's teaching him thievery. So the Gemara said, listus, really? Teaching him thievery, actual thievery? Ella, Ki'ilu melamdo listos. It means it's as if he's teaching him thievery. In other words, also without the ability to earn a living in a proper way, what else is a person going to do to support themselves? Now, both say the Gemara says ma'benayu. So also here's what's interesting. So Rabbi Yehuda doesn't really seem to be contributing anything all that additional, right? So remember again, you have the Tanakama saying that halacha l'maisa, you have to go ahead and teach your child. You have to teach your child an umnus. And then Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says, if you don't teach your child an umnus profession, it's as if you're teaching him thievery. So what is Rabbi Yehuda coming to add? So we'll say this is fascinating. The Gemara says, the agmare iska. We'll say the interesting nafkamina would be, what happens if I don't teach my son a trade, but instead I teach him business? I teach him business, right? Like every good Jewish boy goes into business, right? So I'll say, so what's the chilek between business and a trade? A trade is an identifiable skill set, right? In other words, whatever the trade is, person is an electrician, person is a plumber, a person is a builder, in other words, so typical umnus means there's something specific that I know how to do versus business. Business generally includes merchandise. So the Gemara says, is teaching my son business satisfy my parental obligation to provide my son with a skill set for a parnasa? The Tanakama would say yes. In other words, the obligation of a father is to pave a path forward for his son to earn a parnasa in a meaningful and legal and honest way. Rabbi Yehuda says no. It's got to be a trade. It's got to be a trade. Why was I saying? So it's interesting. Why? Because tradesmen are always necessary, right? Everyone needs the plumber. Everyone needs the electrician. Everyone needs the contractor. Everyone needs the people who have, the business guy, okay, if there's merchandise, there's merchandise. Sometimes the merchandise is valuable, sometimes the merchandise is not valuable. So I'll say, so an interesting nafkamina. Rabbi Yehuda would say, it mamish has to be an umnus, mamish has to be a trade. Tanakama would say, business is just fine. So we'll say next section of the Mishnah, which is going to introduce a dramatic and incredible conversation. So then the next part of the Mishnah was, all the obligations of a father that are on a son, both men and women are chayiv. So once again, we don't know what this statement means. What does that mean? What does that mean? All the mitzvahs of a son, of a father on the son. If you want to say that it's talking about every mitzvah that a father is obligated to do for his son, nashim chayavas are women obligated. We just finished this before. Aviv in imolo. We just got finished. The first part of the Mishnah was talking about all of the mitzvahs that a father has towards his son. Those obligations apply from a father to a son and are not incumbent upon the mother. So rather, Rabbi said, what is it referring to? Amar Yehuda hachi kamar kol mitzvos ha'av al hamutelas al habein la'asos la'aviv. We'll say in this next section of the Mishnah, what are we referring to? All of the obligations that a child has towards a father. Echad noshim ve'echad anoshim ve'echad noshim chayiv. So supposed to listen to this. Chayavin. Now the next, supposed to, in the first part of the Mishnah, we were speaking about parental obligations towards a child. So in that case, again, the Mishnah explained that a father is obligated, a mother is not. In this next section of the Mishnah, we are now talking about what? We're talking about the obligations that a child has towards a parent. Kibur av'aim, those obligations will be incumbent both upon men and women. Both we learn this. Ish, so also the pasuk says, Ishimo v'aviv tiro, that an ish, a man, should go ahead and revere his parents. Only ela ish. I only know that a man is obligated to revere his parents. Ish menayin. What about a woman? Kishu omer tiro. So also we saw this drasha before. Tiro is plural. Plural. Harikan shnayim. So also it comes to teach me two. Who are the two? A man and a woman. Both a man and a woman are obligated to revere their parents. Im kimat omer ish. So why does the pasuk say ish? Ish sipik piadolasos. Isha in sipik piadolasos. B'pnei shus acher malah. We'll say because sometimes a man has an easier time honoring his parents because, again, he might not be saddled with other responsibilities. A woman, here is referring to a married woman, who would be saddled with other responsibilities, a wife, a mother, whatever else that it is that she's doing, may not have the ability to go ahead and devote the time and the resources to honoring her parents. That's why the Torah frames it in the lashon of ish. Amrav Idi Barav and Amrav Niskar Shashneim Shavin. Obviously, if a woman is divorced, or Rashi adds in widowed, where she doesn't have obligations towards a husband, then in that case, again, her obligations of Kibbut Av Va'im would set back in. I both say that happens to be the halacha l'maisa. A married woman doesn't have the same obligations of Kibbut Av Va'im as an unmarried woman, right? For the simple reason that a married woman has a different set of obligations towards a husband, towards a family, and therefore, again, Chazal freed her, so to speak, like Chosh Baruch Hu freed her from certain responsibilities of Kibbut Av Va'im. Now, again, to be clear, it doesn't mean she could disrespect her parents, right? When we speak about an obligation of Kibbut Av Va'im, we're talking about a proactive obligation to do things, as we're going to see. A married woman does not have that same level of obligation. A married man does, married woman does not, which of course is also very ironic. And it's ironic given the fact that in most families, the primary caregiver for ailing parents are usually daughters, which is just a fascinating thing. Daughters seem to play a pivotal role in parental care, which again, not in every family, but in many families, it's like that. But it's just fascinating, again, also given the fact that, again, technically speaking, on a halachic level, they are exempt from that. Okay, fine, let's go back. We're going to see more examples of this. Pasuk says, honor your father and mother. And it says, honor Hashem from your glory. Now, both say the pasuk of Kabedes Hashem Ehoncha is actually a beautiful pasuk which speaks out the idea each and every one of us is endowed with a particular skill set and a particular strength. My job in life is to honor the Ribono Shel Olam through my strengths. Whatever that strength may be, use that to honor the Ribono Shel Olam. So what do you see from it? But the point the Gemara is making over here is he uses the same lashon of kabed. Hishva kasav Kibbut Av Va'im l'chavar hamakom. The Torah equates the honor of a father and mother to the honor due to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But say, is that not incredible? The way you honor your parents, or say honoring parents is equated with honoring the Ribono Shel Olam. Ish imo va'aviv tiro. Pasuk says a man should revere his father and mother. V'ne'emar as Hashem Elokecha tira v'osa tavod. Same idea. Use lashon of reverence by parents, reverence by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hishva kasav moras avaim l'moras hamakom. Torah equates reverence of parents to reverence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ne'emar mekalel avavi imamos yumas. It says if you curse your parents, you're put to death. V'ne'emar ish ki kalel elokav v'nasachet o. So I'll say hishva kasav birchas avaim l'birchas hamakom. Torah equates cursing parents to cursing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we'll say you see three things. Number one, Torah equates honoring parents to honoring HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Torah equates revering parents to revering HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Torah equates cursing parents to cursing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avabaka vadai efshar. But obviously, we'll say the Torah doesn't equate hitting parents to the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because you can't hit the Ribono Shel Olam. V'chin bedin. And we'll say all this makes sense. Why? Sheshlashtan shutzfin bo. Because we'll say all three entities are partners in the creation of man: mother, father, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tan Rabbanon, Shlosha Shutzfin Hein Ba'adam. There are three partners in the creation of man: HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aviv v'Imo. The Ribono Shel Olam, a father and a mother. Bisman sha'adam mechabedes Aviv es Imo. When a person goes ahead and honors his parents, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ma'ala ani aleim kilu darti beineim b'chibduni. We'll say it's such a beautiful Gemara. When a person honors his parents, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it's as if they have honored me. Because remember, again, remember, life is a synergistic partnership between HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a father and a mother. When you respect the partners, you respect HaKadosh Baruch Hu, respect your parents, and ultimately, again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says it's as if you have respected me. Tanya, Rabbi says, Gali v'yadu lifnei misha amar v'aya olam, sha'bein mechabed es imo yosem avra. We'll say these are incredible Gemaras. So Rebbe says, everyone knows that a son naturally respects his mother more than he respects his father. There's greater kibbud aim than there is kibbud av. Why? Why I will say top of Lamed Aleph, shemishadalto mipnei shemishadalto b'dvarim. I will say, because what does a mother do? Ultimately, again, a mother is often kinder and sweeter to a child than a father. Right? So again, the mother is often the source of just sweetness, of unconditional love, and therefore, again, by definition, a child usually has an easier time with kibud aim than kibud av. It's fascinating. Lefichach, therefore I will say, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Hiktim HaKadosh Baruch Hu kibud av lekibud aim. Therefore I will say, it's interesting, that how is the pasuk phrased? Kabed es avicha ve'esimecha. Why is father placed before mother? Father is placed before mother because father is the harder relationship of kavod. Right? Again, I will say, therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have to tell you to honor your mother. It's instinctive. It's reflexive. My mother is the one who's been showering me with conditional love and affection, hopefully from the day that I was born. So that, I'm sorry? Unconditional love. Sorry, unconditional love. That wasn't like a psychological slip. I just want to point out. Unconditional love. Thank you. It was just lack of sleep. Unconditional love. So therefore, again, the kavod comes naturally to her. Father has to be placed in the pasuk first, because again, the father is often the source. We spoke about this before. That fathers, whether we recognize it or not, often convey conditional love, or we convey a messaging of conditional love. Even if that love is unconditional, father's love is a bit more complicated. And therefore, again, the father has to be placed first in the pasuk. But I will say, on the other hand, the guy yet interestingly enough, it's also known that a son often reveres his father more than his mother. And I will say, misyare could often mean fear. So it could mean in this context fear, that a son could often fear his father more than his mother. But you'll see from the context here, it's not really fear. They're talking about a sense of reverence. A son will often revere his father more than his mother. Why? Mipnei shemalamdo Torah. Because the father teaches the son Torah. So because the father, at least I will say in an ideal model, vishinamtam levanecha, right? Even if the father is not the son's primary Rebbe, but a father is teaching his son Torah. So because I teach my son Torah, therefore there's a certain reverence in that relationship. Because there's a reverence, therefore, a son more naturally reveres/fears a father. Therefore, in the pasuk of reverence, Kadosh Baruch Hu places the mother before the father. So the sequencing in the pasuk is kabed es avicha ve'esimecha. Father is put first because it's more natural to be mechabe, to honor one's mother, than it is to honor one's father. And yet, ish imo va'aviv tiro, in the pasuk of yira, of reverence, it's more natural to honor a father than it is, to revere a father than a mother, right? To fear a father than a mother. Therefore, the mother is put first in the sequence. It's incredible. So the Gemara says, Tani Tana Kamed Rab Nachman. Bill says, incredible Gemara. Bizman Sha'adam Mitzar. I'll tell you, these Kibbut Aveim Gemaras, many of us have seen these Gemaras in Kiddushin before. And it's incredible how these Gemaras take on different meanings as your relationship with your parents changes as well. Right? We relate to these Gemaras one way when we're young, and sometimes honoring parents is a struggle because we're just rebelling against authority. And then as we get older, and sometimes again we transition into caregiving capacities for our parents, these Gemaras become challenging for a different reason, right? Because suddenly again our parents are dependent on us. But you see the profundity of Kibbut Avayim. And I think it's so incredible that we're learning these Gemaras now, because as we go into Rosh Hashanah, Yomim Norah, Maseres Yimei Tshuva, and often we're looking for additional zechuyos and ways in which to bolster our relationships with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's fascinating to see that one of the ways you build your relationship with God is through your relationship with your parents. That if you can improve somehow on that relationship, that is a key. That is a key. Building and bolstering my relationship with my parents and my honor and the kavod and the reverence I give to parents enables me to go ahead and bolster my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. So the Gemara says, when a person mistreats his parents, it's good that I don't dwell in that home. For had I dwelt close to that person, the same way he mistreats his parents, he would mistreat me as well. He'll say, what an overwhelming Gemara. What an overwhelming Gemara. A person mistreats his parents. And we'll say, by the way, mistreatment, sometimes, again, it's difficult to deal with parents. So sometimes mistreatment could be just in the form of a sharp word, right? In a curtness, in an abruptness. Chashon Baruch Hu says, you mistreat them. I'm happy that I don't live next to you. I'm happy I don't live with you, because you would mistreat me as well. Incredible. Switching gears in just a moment. Whoever goes ahead and violates an Aveira in private, kilu dochek raglei shchina. It's as if he pushes away the feet of the shchina. In other words, the Bible says, Shneimar, Ka amar Hashem, Hashem said, Hashemayim kis'i, the heavens are my throne, va'aretz hadom ragli, and raglai, and the land, the earth, is like the stepping stool for my feet. So I will say, what's the pshat? When a person commits an Aveira in private, what they're doing is, they're demonstrating, Kadosh Baruch Hu is not here. Baruch Hu is not here. So the earth, so to speak, is like the footstool of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person goes ahead and commits an Aveira in private, so what they're doing is they're saying, they're pushing away the feet of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is not here. Now I will say, why is this Gemara nestled over here in the middle of the Kibbut Av Va'im Sugya? I will say it's an interesting thing. People would never mistreat their parents publicly. Right? In public, everyone always gives honor to their parents. In private, often it's a totally different discussion, right? The way children will talk to their parents, right? Because again, no one wants to disrespect their parents publicly, right? So let me in public, they're the matriarch, they're the patriarch, I'll put them on a pedestal. In private, sometimes that's where there's a little bit of a crack in the relationship. So the Gemara just says, by the way, committing any Aveira in private is such a theological rebellion, because what you're saying essentially is that Ribono Shel Olam sees me in the public setting, he doesn't see me in the private setting. So the Gemara goes right, a person should not walk Dalet Amis, 4 Amis with an erect posture. In other words, we'll say erect posture represents like a sense of arrogance. We'll say a person should always go ahead, not that you should walk around like a hunchback, right? Not that you should walk, but the idea is that a person should go ahead and walk around in a way that emotes some level of humility, recognizing that the Ribono Shel Olam fills the entire world. Rav Huna Breid Rav Yoshua, lo maski arba amos begilui harosh. Rav Huna Breid Yoshua would not walk dalet amos with an uncovered head. I'll say, so this is the makar ultimately for yarmulke, right? This is the makar ultimately for keeping a covering on your head. A covering on your head, Rashi says, reminds you that there is someone above you. There is someone above you, a constant reminder that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in this world above me. Amar Shechina lamala mirashi. The Shechina is above me. The Shechina is above me. I will say, so this is the makar. So the Gemara says, Shaul ben Almona achas es Rabbi Eliezer. So we'll say, it's interesting, Hilchos Kibbut Av Va'im Shailos. Here we go. So there was a particular ben Almona, son of a widow, who asked Rabbi Eliezer the following question. Abba Omer Hishkini Mayim, V'ima Omer Hishkini Mayim. My father asked me for a glass of water, and my mother asked me for a glass of water. They asked me at the same time. Who should I get the glass of water for first? Good shaila. So the Gemara says, Amrlei, Hanach kavod imcha va'asei kavod avicha, she'ata v'imecha chayavim b'kavod avicha. Get it for your father first. Why? Because both you and your mother are obligated to respect your father, right? And therefore, again, get the cup of water for your father first. Okay, so the same young man came before Rabbi Yeshua, Amar lo kach, and he gave the same answer, right? So we'll say, by the way, this is an interesting idea in general. When there is a conflict in Kibbut Av Va'im between father and mother, the halacha is that the kavod of the father wins out, since a mother, as a wife, also has an obligation to respect the father, or not to respect the father, but to respect the husband. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, again, the obligation of Kibbut Av wins out over Kibbut Aim. Amrlo Rebbe, Niskar Shamahu, what happens if my parents are divorced? So in this case, my parents are divorced, my mother has no obligations towards my father. So what happens now? My parents are divorced, and now my father asks me for something, my mother asks me for something at the same time. At the same time, whose request should I honor? Amrle, so we'll say this is actually incredible. Yeshua said to the young man, he said, Mi bein risei einecha, nikar sheben almanata. We'll say this is such an overwhelmingly moving Gemara. He says, I can see from your eyelashes that you are the son of an almana, that your father died. that your father died. In other words, I will say, what do you mean from his eyelashes? So apparently when you cry a lot, your eyelashes fall out. So he said, I see that from your lack of eyelashes that you are a ben almana, and that your question is an academic one. The question is an academic one because you're not going to have a conflict in kibud av and kibud ein. But what I would tell you is, hatela hen mayim b'safal, if that happens with a person's parents, this is actually an interesting answer. Put the water in the trough, v'kakala and kitarnagolim, and let them fight it out like roosters, right? In other words, so I'll say, there happens to be, so I'll say it happens to be halacha l'maisa if parents are divorced, and there is a conflict in kibud av va'im, the child has a choice as to whose request to fulfill first. In general, halachos of kibud av va'im in divorced situations often come with their own complications. But I will say, so that's what he meant when he said, just put the water in the trough, let them fight it out. In other words, bring the water to whoever you want to first. It's up to the child to decide whose request they feel. I will say, I will just point out something absolutely amazing over here. This I will say, it's a shame we have to go so quickly because these gimmers. I mean, actually, we're not really going quickly, but Lamaisa, I just want to point out how profound this gemara is. We'll say, just so you understand, this young man is coming to Rebbe, and Rebbe says, I see from your eyelashes, or lack of eyelashes, that your father died. I was saying, do you understand the Kabbalah in this gemara? You know what it means to be a Yid and what it means to be part of community? It means that you are sensitive to other people. It means that you look, when you see people, let's say you could look at people or you could see people. Seeing people means you try to figure out, like, where are they coming from? Who are they? What are their struggles? What are they doing? Let's say we go through life, and so often we're just so wrapped up in our own stuff that we fail to see the other. We fail to see what's happening. Like, let's say, can you imagine a sensitivity to someone else that you could see, you know what? You don't have eyelashes. Now, I guess there could be a variety of reasons why a person doesn't have eyelashes, but somehow Rebbe said, your father died, right? Your father died. The sensitivity to a yassim. We'll say, no, Yom Tov is coming. And like, I mentioned this on Shabbos, but like, there are so many people in community without mishpacha, so many people in community without just like an anchor, like a familial anchor, a life anchor, and the ability to not get so wrapped up in our own stuff that all we see is my needs, my family. But you're able to look around, you're able to look at another person, you're able to see, you know what? That guy looks sad. That person looks burdened. Maybe if I just go over to them and say, what's going on? Is everything okay? How that makes a dramatic, just again, the sensitivity of Rebbe. When you ask someone how they're doing, we'll say, let's be honest. When you ask someone how you're doing, the truth is, what am I looking for? What am I really looking for? I am looking for a one-word answer that gets me out of that conversation as quickly as possible. Just give me an everything is great. Even that's too long. Just say fine. Just say fine, right? And let's go on with our lives, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to be burdened. But what it means to be part of Klal Yisrael is to be burdened. To be nosei ba'olim chaveiro. That if you see that someone is struggling, right? Figure out, ask, what is it? What is it? And see what you can do. I will say that sort of... At the end of the day, what it means to be a Yid is not to finish Shas. That's not what it means. That's a beautiful accomplishment. What it means to be a Yid is just to be sensitive and to be attuned to the needs and to the struggles of the other and to be willing to bend your shoulder to help them shoulder or the burden. Incredible Yisod. Amar lo Rebbe, this guy was fine. Let's go weiter. Darash Ula. Darash Ula Rabba Pischa de Benesia. What's the meaning of the pasuk? Yoducha Hashem kol malchei aretz ki shamru imrei picha. So also, what's the meaning of the pasuk that says, literally again, Hashem, all of the kings, all of the malchei aretz, all of the kings of the earth will know you, ki shamru imei picha, because they have heard the words of your mouth. Mamar picha lo amru, no nemar. It doesn't say mamar picha, ela imrei picha. So also, what does it mean? B'shas shamar HaKadosh Baruch Hu anochi v'lo yeh lecha. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the first dibros and it said, I am Hashem your God, don't have any other gods. Amru umas om lekavod atzmahu doresh. So the nations of the world said, this God, he's egocentric. Right? He's egocentric. It's all about him. I am Hashem your God, don't have any other gods. But once HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, honor your father and mother, in other words, once the King of Kings commands us to give other people honor, then what? then they recognize that the other dibros, ultimately again were proper dibros as well. Rava says from here, Rosh Devarcha Emes, Rosh Devarcha V'lo Sof Devarcha. Only the beginning of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's words are Emes, the rest are not. Ella Misof Devarecha Nikar Sherosh Devarcha Emes. Rava say from his latter words, Ayi Kabed Es Avicha Ve'esimecha, indicative of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chas Hashem is not egocentric. He's not egocentric, right? But rather again, his covet, even though he mandates us to give him covet, that's for our benefit and betterment as well. But let's say here we go. We'll say incredible Gemara. How far do we have to go to honor our parents? Right? How far does the mitzvah of Kibbut Av V'Em go? So we'll say, by the way, I just want to point out, for those who don't have parents, right? Or those who have lost a parent or both parents. So sometimes we come to these sugyas and we're like, what's in it for me? Let's say, just know that in every single mitzvah, there's two ways to perform a mitzvah. You can perform a mitzvah biyadayim, actually performance, and you can perform b'machshava, in thought. When a person yearns to perform a mitzvah, in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that counts. So a person is no longer privileged to have parents in this world, or no longer privileged to have a parent in this world. When a person thinks in their heart and says, Ribono Shel Olam, how much I would love to serve my mother, how much I would love to serve my father, how much, what I wouldn't give to bring them a cup of tea, what I wouldn't bring now, what I wouldn't do now to drive them to a doctor's appointment, right? When a person has that in their machshava, and they think to themselves, how much I yearn to be able to do something for them, that counts. So don't think that if a person should never think that just because my parents or my parent is no longer here, that these sugyas don't apply to me. It's not true. It might not apply again the olam ha'asiyah, in the actional world, but in the olam ha'machshava, in the cognitive, emotional world, when you yearn to do something that counts in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'll say, how far do you have to go for kibbut av v'em? So the Gemara says, listen to this. So tzuru ma'asa ovid kochavim echa ba'ashkelon. Well, say, let me tell you a story about a Gentile in Ashkelon. Who was the Gentile in Ashkelon? Dama ben Nesina. His name was Dama ben Nesina. That was his name. He's a Gentile. One time, the rabbis came to him and they wanted to go ahead and do business with him. Now, also, we're going to see what kind of business in just a moment. They wanted to do business with him and they were willing to pay him 600,000 gold pieces. In other words, also, they were willing to pay him an astronomical sum of money for business. And what happened? I'll say first of the white lines. The key to the safe was underneath his father's pillow, and his father was sleeping. And Dama ben Nesina would not wake up his father for the deal. Rabbi Shmuel Silber. So let's say, so again, ask Rabbi Eliezer, how far do you have to go for kibbut aveim? Amar lehem tzuru ma'asa ovi kochavim echad le'aviv ba'ashkelon v'dama ben Nesina shmo. Bikesh chachamim avanim le'efod. So we'll say, it's not clear if this is, B'Pashtus, it sounds like it's the same story. This has more details. So we'll say, why did the chachamim, why were the rabbis coming to Dama ben Nesina? So we'll say, this is incredible. He apparently had precious stones that they wanted to use for the apron of the Kohen Gadol. Right? There are two times you use precious stones. You have precious stones again on the shoulder plates of the ephod, and also, of course, on the actual breastplate, right? The choshen. So Dam ben Nesina, I guess, was a purveyor of precious stones. They showed up to him. We need this for the Kohen Gadol. And we'll say for the Kohen Gadol, how much money are you willing to pay? Whatever it takes. B'shishim rivos schar, Rav Kanamasim b'shmonim rivos schar. We'll say ridiculous money. What do they call it? God money. God money, right? Right? Ridiculous amounts of money that they are willing to go ahead and offer this Dama ben Nesina. And what happens? And we'll say the key to the safe, which housed the jewels, was underneath his father's pillow. His father was sleeping. Dama ben Nesina says, no dice. No dice, right? You're welcome to come back later, right? Right? A shluf is a shluf. You're welcome to come back later, but I'm not going to wake my father up for this deal. So we'll say what happened. So we'll say, so the Gemara is pointing out over here. Now, what's interesting, just to point out, is this is not a case of active kibbut aveim, but rather, again, this is Dama ben Nesina refraining from disturbing his father. So he would not go ahead and wake up his father. L'shana acheres, the next year, Nasana Kadosh Baruch Hu scharo, shenodala para aduma be'edro. Wow. So I'll say what happened. In the merit of the Kibbud Avayim, that Dama ben Nesina went ahead and exercised the next year. HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed the miracle, and a para aduma was born in his flock. Nichnesu chachmei Yisrael etzlo. So what happened? The Chacham came to Dama ben Nesina. Amar lahem yodea ani bachem shimani mevakish mikem komamon shebaolam atem nosnimli. So ultimately, again, he said, I know I could ask any amount of money, right? I could go ahead, and the sky is the limit for this para aduma. But Dama ben Nesina says, I'm not asking anything more than the money I lost when I honored my father and was unable to sell you the precious jewels. Dama ben Nesina didn't take advantage of the situation. He just went ahead and, so to speak, recouped the loss. Rabbi Shmuel Silber points out over here that you do see here the difference between an akum and a yid. If you look at the lashon of Dama ben Nesina, what does Dama ben Nesina say? Dama ben Nesina says, I'm not going to exploit the situation. All I want is the money I lost through Kibbud Avayim. You lost. It's true, you didn't get the deal, but you lost absolutely nothing through Kibbud Avayim. See what I was saying? When we perform mitzvos and we quote unquote lose out on opportunities, how do we look at that? Do we look at that as a loss? Look at that as a loss. You didn't get the money. You didn't sell the jewels. You don't lose anything. You didn't get the deal. But how much more did you gain from the mitzvah than any amount of money you could have possibly lost? See, as great as Dama ben Nesina was, at the end of the day, in Dama ben Nesina's mind, there was a loss. There was a loss of 600,000, 800,000, whatever it was a loss. Again, I will say, this is where our ideology differs a bit. That for us, although sometimes the performance of mitzvos may quote-unquote lead to the loss, a transactional loss, in the grand scheme of things, there is only a net gain when a person follows the Dvar Hashem. Right? We will have to stop over here for today. I want to thank everyone for attending the Yomi shir. It's been an incredible schos. So I'll say, don't worry. Here's the plan. Tomorrow morning we're going to have shir. I'll say what's going to happen is tomorrow night, we are having a special Daf Yomi night shir where we're going to make up everything, because Friday morning Slichas is going to start early. So what we're going to do is Thursday evening, Emirat Hashem, before the Chassidus shir, what we're going to do is we're going to make up. We're going to essentially do the rest of whatever left over of Thursday's daf and Emirat Hashem Friday's daf. So a little bit of a shtickle. It's going to be like a Leil Iyun here. We're going to go from Daf Yomi, Emirat Hashem into Chassidus. So stay tuned for that. So again, regular shir tomorrow morning. I'm just telling you that by Friday, the universe will be back in equilibrium. Everything is going to be fine. We will catch up with the rest of Klal Yisrael. All right, Chavra and Zoom, have a great day, everyone. Is it further back than usual? Maybe that's it. Isn't it? Don't we normally put it under the spots? That spotlights over here, or is that my imagination? Oh, she's the beamer further back than usual. Did we? Forward?